At my sister's wedding, the bank called, "Your loan's overdue." Mom took it in my name to fund the wedding. I froze, then declared, "This wedding's canceled. I'm calling the police." What do you do when your own mother steals your identity to pay for your sister's wedding? I found out in the middle of the toasts, champagne in my hand, my life detonating in front of 200 people. Would you have stayed quiet? Or set the whole lie on fire? I'm Daniel. I'm 28. I've always been the calm one in the family, the "it's not worth the fight" guy. The one who'd slip out of a room when voices got sharp and let arguments pass over me like a wave. It wasn't fear, exactly. More like survival. Keep the peace, pay your own way, don't make noise. That was my role. And that night, at my sister Emily's wedding, I was fully prepared to play it again. Smile for photos. Clap politely. Maybe get dragged onto the dance floor by an aunt who thinks I don't dance enough. Then go home, exhale, and sleep off the performance. The first half of the evening was a picture. White linens that looked like clouds. Tea lights floating in glass bowls. The band doing that well-rehearsed, "we're happy to be wallpaper" thing. Laughter, clinking glasses, a string of compliments circling my mother like a crown. She thrives at events like this. She knows how to float from table to table in a dress that says "effortless" and a smile that says "applaud me." Every "what a beautiful wedding" was met with her gracious nod and a coy, "we worked so hard for this." She eats applause like oxygen. Me? I've always known appearances matter more to her than reality. Always known Emily was the prized jewel, and I was useful, reliable, quiet. And I'd learned to be okay with that. Or at least learned to pretend. So I took my seat at our table. I watched my sister glow, truly glow, in her gown. I let the music hum through me and told myself, let it go. It's her day. Then my phone buzzed. I almost ignored it. I figured it was a friend sending a "congrats to your sis" text or some random notification. But the caller ID made my stomach dip, my bank. Weird, but fine. Maybe a fraud alert on my card? I stepped a few feet away from the table so I wouldn't be rude and answered with that half-whisper you use in fancy rooms. "Mr. Johnson?" The man's voice was measured. Professional. "This is Erin from the downtown branch. I'm calling regarding your overdue loan payment. We've sent multiple notices." A beat of static in my brain. "Overdue what?" "I think you've got the wrong person," I said, half laughing. "I don't have a loan." A pause. Papers shuffling. "Sir, I'm looking at your file. Loan in your name. Opened 6 months ago. Co-signed at our downtown branch. Your mother, Ms. Johnson, coordinated the paperwork. It was described as funds to support your sister's wedding." His words slid through the music and straight into bone. My fingers tightened around the glass. I went very still. My eyes drifted across the room until they landed on my mother. She was mid-laugh, mid-toast, basking in the spotlight like it was sunlight crafted exclusively for her. The sight hit me like a slap. "Are you telling me," I said slowly, measuring each word so they didn't explode, "that my mother took out a loan using my name?" "Yes, sir," he said. "Our records show the loan is under your name. Signature on file. Your personal information matches. It's now overdue." The room seemed to tilt. I felt heat rise up my neck. I've never taken out a loan. I avoid debt on purpose. I budget. I save. I keep my life simple. No secrets. No chaos. And suddenly, chaos was calling me by name. He read the details. My full name. My address. Pieces of me laid out like evidence on a table. Everything matched, except the one thing that mattered. I hadn't signed anything. This wasn't a mix-up. It wasn't a prank. It was real. It was theft. I looked at Emily, beaming. At my new brother-in-law, blissfully unaware. At my dad, wearing that familiar, harmless expression that always meant, "Let her steer the ship, son." And then at my mother again. Untouchable. Untouchable, I'd always thought. Until now. Had they known? Did Emily know? Did Dad? The questions rose fast and hot and acid. Years of moments unspooled at once. Mom asking me to be a team player when it meant bailing someone out. Emily getting what she wanted, always, because it's a special occasion. My dad's quiet agreement, the nod that said don't make this harder. Countless times I was told to be grateful, to be flexible, to be a good son, translation, be silent. I realized my jaw was clenched. The manager was still on speaker. And my voice, my polite, don't rock the boat voice, just wasn't there anymore. "Then I guess this wedding is officially canceled," I said, louder than I meant, my words snapping like a flag in wind, "because I'm calling the police right now." The sound that followed was a kind of vacuum. Conversations stopped mid-laugh. Forks hovered midair. The band missed a beat and then went quiet. Heads turned. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 3 degrees. My mother's smile froze on her face like someone had unplugged her. Chaos doesn't always roar. Sometimes it lands like a pin and then detonates in waves. Emily's hand clamped onto my arm, nails biting. Daniel, what are you doing? Don't ruin this. Her voice trembled, a perfect blend of panic and accusation. My brother-in-law stared at me, fork suspended midair, eyes like saucers. My dad's jaw tightened, color creeping up his neck. My mother stood, chair scraping, and said in a tone that echoed across the hall, "Put that phone down. We will discuss this later." That was her go-to move, delay and control. Get back to the script. Seal the cracks. Pretend the house isn't on fire. But something in me had shifted. I was done pretending. Through the speaker, the bank manager's voice floated in. "Sir, if you'd like, I can connect you directly to our fraud department." I let the words hang heavy. I wanted them to see it. I wanted them to feel it. The bridesmaids were whispering. Guests traded wide-eyed looks. The illusion my mother had polished for years was finally showing its real face. Inside, my hands shook. Not from fear, from relief. The dam had broken. The quiet I'd been swallowing for years was finally spilling out, and I felt steady. "Mr. Johnson," the manager prompted gently. "Would you like me to connect you?" My family waited to see if I'd fold. They were used to me folding. And to be fair, I'd trained them to expect it. Emily tugged my sleeve again. "Please," she whispered, desperation fraying her voice. "Not here. Don't do this to me. Not, I'm sorry this happened to you. Not, I had no idea. Just, not here. Not now. Not to me." The spotlight. Always the spotlight. My dad leaned in, voice low, the peacemaker tone he used when he wanted me to be the bigger person. "Daniel, son, let's not make a scene. Your mother made a mistake. We'll handle this tomorrow." A mistake. Like forgetting a card at a restaurant. Like mixing up a date. Like not the theft of my identity and my future. I turned to him, voice tight. "A mistake is forgetting milk. This is identity theft. This is my credit. My life." My mother lifted her chin and slid into her favorite role, unyielding matriarch. Calm. Cold. "I did what I had to do for this family," she said. "You should be grateful. Your sister deserves this wedding. You'll survive a little debt. Families sacrifice for each other." I barked a laugh that wasn't really a laugh. Funny how the sacrifice is always me. Never her. Never you. Always me. You could feel the room hold its breath. Even the band stopped pretending to tune. "Sir," the bank manager said carefully into the vacuum, "I'll need an answer." Before I could speak, my mother lunged and gripped my wrist. Her nails dug crescents into my skin. "Put the phone down," she hissed, the sweetness gone. "You will not embarrass me." Mask off. There she was. I pulled my arm back. "You don't get to tell me what to do. You stole from me. You lied to me. And you thought I'd stay quiet. Not this time." A chorus of soft gasps rolled through the room. Someone said, "My God." Someone else whispered, "Unbelievable." The whispers didn't cut me down. They buoyed me up, weirdly. Like witnesses were oxygen. "Mr. Johnson?" The manager tried again. "Should I connect you to our fraud team?" I raised the phone an inch, eyes locked on my mother. "What do you think I should say, Mom? Should I tell him yes? Or do you want to explain why their tax dollars might be paying for your bail?" Her face strained. For the first time in my life, I watched actual fear flash in her eyes. Not annoyance. Not rage. Fear. My dad reached for her hand. She shook him off and tried to steady her voice. "Enough. You will not ruin your sister's wedding." I tilted my head. Calm. Very, very calm. "Oh, Mom. You already did that." The whispers amplified. You could feel the room tilt toward the truth. That's when Emily broke. She stood so fast her chair shrieked against the floor. "Can you let me have this one day?" she snapped, voice slicing through the quiet. "Why do you always make it about you?" It hit like a slap I'd been bracing for my whole life. I turned to her. Slow. Controlled. "This isn't me wanting attention. This is Mom stealing my future so you could have a party. Tell me the truth. Did you know?" She glanced at Mom. Then at her husband. Then down. Silence pulled where an answer should have been. Silence can be the loudest confession. Through the speaker, the manager cleared his throat. "If you're not ready to proceed, I can call tomorrow. But I will need an answer soon." I looked down at the phone, then at my family, then out at the sea of faces. And something settled inside me. I felt anchored. No, I said, loud enough to carry. You don't get to decide how this ends. I do. The room shifted. It was subtle, but it was real. For the first time, I wasn't the one being steered. I had the wheel. The manager asked if I needed him to stay on the line. I lowered the phone a little, kept the line open, and looked at my mother. Her lips trembled. The cracks were spidering out fast now. Please, she whispered, voice finally human. Not here. We'll make it right. You can't even say you're sorry, I said. My voice shook not with fear, but with the weight of years. You can't even admit you were wrong. My dad tried one more pass at control. He rubbed his temples and said in that old, heavy tone, lower your voice. We'll talk at home. That tone used to fold me in half. Used to make me shrink. I felt it tug, and then I felt it fall away. I turned to the room. Since everyone's wondering what's going on, I said clearly, here it is. My mother stole my identity, took out a loan in my name, and used it to pay for this wedding. A collective gasp. A few no ways. And Uncle muttered, that can't be true. And then, through the phone, like the final stamp on a document, it is true, the bank manager said. The overdue loan is listed under Mr. Daniel Johnson's name. The fire jumped tables. People leaned in, covered mouths, exchanged looks that said, is this actually happening? My mother reached for me again, desperation swapping places with fury, and I stepped back out of reach. You don't get to silence me, I said. Not anymore. I looked at Emily. Did you know? Her lip trembled. She looked at the floor. Then at me. Then down again. No words. You let it happen, I whispered, the truth turning my voice raw. You let her ruin me so you could smile for pictures. My brother-in-law finally spoke, shaky. Daniel, please. This isn't the place. Not the place. I snapped. When would be the place? After the bank destroys my credit? After I can't buy a home because your perfect day mattered more than my life. By then, the room had split into clear camps, shock-frozen statues, and whispering spectators. The gossip machine was fully awake, and there was no putting the lid back on. Enough, my mother said, her voice sharp and trembling. Do you want to humiliate me? Destroy your sister's happiness? All because of some paperwork. Paperwork. Not betrayal. Not theft. Not the years it would take me to clean up and rebuild. Paperwork. Something in me solidified. Yes, I said into the phone, steady, sure. Connect me to the fraud department. My mother swayed. She grabbed the edge of the table to keep herself upright. Her empire was listing hard. And then a sound I hadn't heard from him in years cut through the noise. My grandfather, my mother's father, stood. He's not a big man anymore. Age has carved him down. But his voice, it still carries. Is this true? He asked, eyes pinned on my mother. Silence fell again, heavier than before. He rarely intervened. When he did, it was final. Dad, please, she started, reaching for a story, for a spin, for anything. It's not don't lie to me, he snapped, the old steel in his words. Did you take out that loan in Daniel's name? She looked at him. At me. At the room she'd curated as her audience. Her lips trembled. For one suspended second, there was nowhere to run. Nowhere to hide. The truth backed her into a corner. My phone buzzed. Another call flashed across the screen. I hesitated, thumb hovering, then swiped to accept. This is Officer Reynolds with the Financial Crimes Unit, a calm voice said. Mr. Johnson, we've received a request to follow up regarding fraudulent loan activity. Are you able to speak right now? My whole body went still. This was the edge. I could back up. I could protect them. I could pretend we're fine and settle it quietly tomorrow like my father wanted. Or I could step forward and finally, break the pattern. I looked at my mother, pale, shaking, barely standing. At my father, jaw clenched, eyes sliding away. At Emily, rigid and glittering and furious that reality had crashed her party. And then at my grandfather, anger and disappointment in his eyes, yes, but also something else. Something like hope. Yes, I said into the phone. I can speak. We've reviewed documents from the bank, the officer continued. The loan was opened under your name, signed by another party. We'll need your confirmation to proceed with pressing charges. I lifted the phone so everyone could hear. My voice came out steady. Clear. Mine. Yes, officer. I want to press charges. The sound that followed was glass shattering somewhere near the bar. A clean, sudden crack that felt like a gavel slamming down. My mother staggered, eyes wide. No, Daniel. You can't mean that. I'm your mother. For one heartbeat, I was 5 again. Wanting her to be soft. Wanting to be seen, chosen, protected. Then the heartbeat passed, and I was 28. standing in the ruins of her choices. I do mean it, I said, quiet but immovable. You crossed the line. I'm not cleaning up your mess anymore. Stay where you are, the officer said. A unit is en route to take statements. Do not let the suspect leave. Suspect. The word cracked the air. My mother sank into a chair. My dad hovered uselessly, whispering nothing that could fix this. For the first time, they looked small. Mortal. Not the gods of my childhood, just people who made choices and expected me to absorb the consequences. Emily's voice knifed through the silence. Please don't do this. Think about what you're doing to me. To you. I turned toward her, the anger hot and clean. This isn't about you. This is about Mom stealing from me so you could pretend this day was perfect. You knew. You stayed silent. And now you want me to protect you. She cried harder. I didn't move. Time slowed. The air got thick. Then, finally, sirens. Faint at first. Growing louder. Flashing red and blue bounced along the windows and slid across the walls like a spotlight from a different kind of show. The doors opened. 2 officers stepped in, one tall woman with sharp eyes, one stockier man scanning the room with practiced calm. The chatter died instantly. Which of you is Daniel Johnson? The woman asked. I raised my hand. That's me. She nodded. We'll need your statement. Then she turned to my mother. Ma'am, we have reason to believe you committed financial fraud by taking out a loan under your son's name without authorization. You'll need to come with us. My mother shot to her feet, denial tumbling out of her. No. This is ridiculous. He's lying. He's jealous of his sister. This is the documents bear your signature, the officer said evenly. You can explain at the station. My dad stepped forward, his voice small. There must be, sir. Step back, the officer said without looking at him. And then I watched the impossible become real. My mother, the woman who curated every detail of this wedding, who built her reputation one compliment at a time, turned around and placed her wrists behind her back because the alternative was a scene she couldn't control. The click of the cuffs felt louder than the band had all night. A wave moved through the room. Hands to mouths. Head shaking. People frozen mid-whisper. The sight was surreal. The queen of appearances escorted out past centerpieces and placed cards with her name on them. As they led her toward the doors, she twisted and spat. You'll regret this, Daniel. You've ruined everything. Her words hit like rubber. They didn't sink in. They bounced off. I stood tall. I watched them go. I listened to the sirens fade. And I felt the silence that followed settle over the hall like dust after a collapse. I turned back to what was left. Emily sobbed, mascara carving lines down her face. Her husband stared at the floor like he could disappear into it. My dad sat down hard, muttering to himself. And my grandfather, slow, deliberate, lowered himself back into his chair, then lifted his eyes to mine. You did the right thing, Daniel, he said. Not loud. But the room heard it. It's about time someone stood up to her. There it was. The final note of the night. Not the last dance. Not a sparkle exit. Truth, spoken out loud. People drifted out in clumps, some eager to get away from the wreckage, some lingering to soak in the scandal. Someone tried to restart the music. It fell flat. The wedding was over. Not with applause. With handcuffs. The days after were a blur of calls and paperwork and the kind of fatigue that sinks into your bones. Word spread fast, family group chats exploding, acquaintances texting, "Are you okay?" with wide-eyed emojis, whispers turning into headlines in our tiny social circles. They called it the Johnson wedding scandal like it was a TV special. The bank worked with me. It wasn't magic. It wasn't quick. There were forms, affidavits, recorded statements, calls with the fraud department where I had to repeat the story so many times it felt like a script I hated. But piece by piece, they helped me start separating my name from the mess. My father didn't call. He couldn't look me in the eye when we accidentally crossed paths. Humiliation hung on him like a heavy coat, and he wore it like I'd put it there. Not Mom. Me. Because I said the quiet part out loud. Emily didn't apologize. Didn't ask how I was. She sent one text, "I hope you're happy." I stared at it for a long time. Then I put my phone face down and sat in the quiet. Happy wasn't the word. I wasn't gloating. I wasn't triumphant. I was exhausted, grieving a family I realized I'd never really had, the one I only ever saw in photos. And still, underneath all that wreckage, there was a new feeling. Small at first, then growing. Relief. I wasn't their pawn anymore. I wasn't the dependable son they sacrificed on the altar of appearances. I wasn't the silence that made their lies easier to tell. I was free. A few weeks later, I drove to my grandfather's place. He sat on the porch like always, in that old chair that creaks when he leans back. We watched the sky go gold, then orange, then the kind of blue that makes you feel things you don't have words for. He didn't push. He never does. He just reached over, patted my hand, and let the quiet sit with us until it felt like a blanket instead of a weight. You broke the cycle, he said finally, eyes still on the horizon. Don't let them make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. I swallowed hard. I don't know what our family looks like after this. Maybe it finally looks honest, he said. Honest is ugly at first. Then it's clean. His words have been echoing ever since. My mother will face what she faces. My father will decide whether he's more ashamed of truth or of lies. Emily will have to live with the silence she chose. And me? I'll rebuild. I'll keep answering the bank's calls when they come. I'll keep untangling my name from what she did. I'll keep paying my own rent, showing up for work, making breakfast, living a life that no longer needs to contort itself around her stories. I don't know if my family will forgive me. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive them. I do know this. I did the right thing. Because sometimes the only way to save yourself is to set the bridge on fire and walk away with your own light. Fire, if you were in my shoes at your sister's wedding, with the truth burning a hole in your hand, would you have pressed charges then and there? Or waited till morning and kept the peace? Have you ever had to break your family's rules to protect yourself? Tell me what you think. I really want to know.